The morning of October 15th should have been the happiest day of Madison Harper's life. Instead, she found herself standing in the bridal suite of the Grandview Manor, staring at her phone in disbelief. The wedding was supposed to start in 3 hours, and her fiancé, Derek Castellano, had vanished without a trace. "Madison, honey, you need to get into your dress," her mother Patricia called from across the room, oblivious to the crisis unfolding. Madison's hands trembled as she read the text message for the 5th time. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. Don't look for me. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss." 26 years old, Madison had built her entire life around Derek. They'd been together since college at Northwestern University, where she'd studied business administration while he pursued his MBA. She'd turned down job offers in New York and Los Angeles to stay in Chicago, working at a mid-tier marketing firm, while Derek climbed the corporate ladder at his family's construction company. "Where's Derek?" asked Sophia Chen, Madison's maid of honor and best friend since childhood. Sophia had flown in from San Francisco just for this day, leaving her high-powered tech job to be here. Madison couldn't form the words. She simply handed Sophia the phone. Sophia's face went pale. This has to be some kind of joke. Cold feet, maybe? But Madison knew better. The signs had been there for months. Derek's late nights, his secretive phone calls, the way he'd grown distant and irritable. She'd convinced herself it was wedding stress, that everything would return to normal after they said their vows. "I need to call him," Madison whispered, but even as she dialed, she knew it was futile. The phone went straight to voicemail. The next hour passed in a blur of frantic phone calls and growing panic. Derek's groomsmen claimed they hadn't heard from him. His parents, Richard and Helen Castellano, seemed genuinely shocked. The wedding planner, a stern woman named Mrs. Rodriguez, kept checking her watch and asking pointed questions about Plan B. It was Derek's younger brother, Alexander, who finally provided the devastating truth. Alexander Castellano was everything Derek wasn't. While Derek was flashy and ambitious, Alexander was quietly brilliant. At 28, he'd already made his first billion through a series of tech investments and real estate ventures. Where Derek commanded attention through volume and bravado, Alexander earned respect through competence and integrity. "Madison," Alexander said, pulling her aside into the manor's garden. His usually composed demeanor was cracked with something that looked like guilt. "I need to tell you something, and you're not going to want to hear it." "He's with someone else, isn't he?" Madison's voice was barely above a whisper. Alexander nodded grimly. "I saw them together last night at the Ritz-Carlton downtown. Derek and—" He hesitated. "And who?" "Sophia." The words hit Madison like a physical blow. Her best friend, her maid of honor, the woman who'd helped her pick out her wedding dress, who'd organized her bachelorette party, who'd been by her side through every major moment of her adult life. "That's impossible," Madison breathed. "Sophia would never." "I'm sorry, Madison. I wanted to tell you weeks ago, but Derek begged me not to. He said it was a mistake, that it wouldn't happen again. I should have." "Weeks ago?" Madison's legs gave out, and she sank onto a nearby bench. "This has been going on for weeks?" Alexander sat beside her, his jaw clenched with barely contained anger. "I should have protected you. I should have." "Where are they now?" "I don't know. Derek's credit cards show charges at the airport. I think they left town together." Madison felt something die inside her chest. Not just her heart breaking, but something deeper. Her faith in people, in love, in the fundamental goodness she'd always believed existed in the world. The aftermath was a special kind of hell. Madison had to face 300 guests, explain why there would be no wedding, and somehow maintain her dignity while her world crumbled around her. The gifts had to be returned, the deposits lost, the explanations given over and over until the words lost all meaning. Derek's parents were mortified. Richard Castellano, a man who'd built his construction empire on the foundation of keeping his word, couldn't look Madison in the eye. Helen Castellano wept openly, apologizing repeatedly for her son's behavior. "You're still family to us," Helen insisted, pressing a check into Madison's hands. "For all the expenses, for everything you've lost, This doesn't make it right, but I can't take this, Madison protested, but Helen was insistent. You can and you will. My son destroyed your life. The least we can do is help you rebuild it. Alexander handled the practical matters with quiet efficiency. He dealt with the vendors, the venue, the endless logistics of unplanning a wedding. He never asked for gratitude or recognition. He simply did what needed to be done. Madison's own family was devastated. Her father, a proud man who'd walked her down the aisle at 17 different rehearsals, looked broken. Her mother alternated between rage and grief, cursing Derek's name one moment and crying for her daughter the next. The worst part was the silence from Sophia. No call, no text, no explanation. Just the complete erasure of a 20-year friendship as if it had never existed. Madison threw herself into work, but even that refuge was compromised. Derek had been her emergency contact, her +1 to company events, her future. Now every conversation with colleagues required explanation. Every project reminded her of plans they'd made together. 3 months after the wedding that never was, Madison made a decision that would change everything. She was driving home from another soul-crushing day at the office when she got the call. Madison Harper? The voice was professional, clinical. Yes? This is Dr. Williams from Chicago General. You've been in an accident. The last thing Madison remembered was the screech of brakes and the sickening crunch of metal. Then nothing. Madison woke up in a hospital bed, but something was wrong. The room was different, nicer, more luxurious than any hospital room she'd ever seen. The morning light streaming through the windows seemed brighter, and when she looked at her hands, they were unmarked by the cuts and bruises she remembered from the accident. "Thank God you're awake," said a voice she recognized but couldn't place. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair was sitting beside her bed. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" Madison asked, her voice hoarse. "No." The woman's face fell. "Madison, honey, it's me, it's Helen. Helen Castellano." Madison's memories came flooding back, but they were wrong somehow. She remembered the accident, remembered the pain of Derek's betrayal, but she also remembered other things, things that hadn't happened yet. Or had they? "What year is it?" Madison asked. Helen looked concerned. "It's 2024, dear. You've been unconscious for 2 days. You gave us quite a scare." But that couldn't be right. Madison's last clear memory was of 2023, of the wedding that never happened. Yet somehow she knew things about the future that felt like memories. "Where's Derek?" she asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Helen's expression hardened. "Derek is no longer part of your life. And good riddance. You deserve so much better than my foolish son." Over the next few days, as Madison recovered, the truth became clear. Somehow, impossibly, she'd been given a second chance. She was back in 2024, but she retained all her memories from before, including the knowledge of Derek's betrayal. The accident had been real, but it had also been a turning point. In this timeline, this reality, things had happened differently. Derek had still betrayed her, but she'd found out before the wedding. She'd still been devastated, but she'd also been given the chance to change her story. Alexander visited her every day. He brought flowers, books, and quiet conversation. He updated her on her recovery, handled the insurance paperwork, and somehow made the sterile hospital room feel less lonely. "Why are you doing this?" Madison asked him one afternoon. Alexander looked up from the financial documents he'd been reviewing. "Because someone should. Because you deserve to have people who care about you. Because my brother is an idiot, and someone needs to make up for his mistakes. You don't owe me anything." "Maybe not, but I want to help anyway." Madison studied his face, the strong jaw, the intelligent eyes, the way he carried himself with quiet confidence. She'd always known Alexander was different from Derek, but she'd never really seen him before. He'd been Derek's little brother, successful but somehow peripheral to her life. Now she was seeing him clearly for the first time. Alexander was released from the hospital. Alexander made an unexpected offer. "Come work for me," he said over coffee at a small cafe near her apartment. "I need someone with your marketing background for a new project." A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now back to where we left off. Madison was skeptical. I appreciate the offer, but I don't need charity. It's not charity, it's business. I'm launching a new venture, sustainable housing development. I need someone who understands how to position a brand, how to tell a story that resonates with consumers. Your background is exactly what I need. The offer was tempting. Madison's current job felt stifling, and the salary Alexander was proposing was nearly double what she was making. "What's the catch?" she asked. Alexander smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his usually serious face. "No catch, just hard work and the chance to build something meaningful." Madison accepted the position, and it proved to be the best decision she'd made in years. Alexander's new company, Phoenix Development, was focused on creating affordable, environmentally sustainable housing for middle-class families. It was ambitious, idealistic, and exactly the kind of work Madison had always dreamed of doing. Working closely with Alexander, Madison discovered depths to his character she'd never suspected. He was brilliant, yes, but also deeply principled. He treated his employees with respect, paid fair wages, and genuinely cared about the impact of his work on the community. More importantly, he saw Madison, really saw her, in a way Derek never had. Derek had loved the idea of Madison, the picture-perfect fiancé who would complete his image of success. Alexander appreciated her intelligence, her creativity, her drive to make a difference. Their relationship evolved slowly, built on mutual respect and shared values. Alexander never pushed, never assumed, never took for granted that Madison's feelings might change. He simply showed up, consistently and reliably, proving through his actions that he was nothing like his brother. 6 months into her new job, Madison made a discovery that changed everything. She was working late one evening, reviewing market research for Phoenix Development's latest project, when she stumbled across a file that wasn't meant for her eyes. The file contained private investigator reports, bank records, and surveillance photos, all documenting Derek's affair with Sophia. Madison's hands shook as she read through the documents. The affair had started months before the wedding, just as she'd suspected. But what she hadn't known was that Derek had been stealing from his own family's company to fund his relationship with Sophia. Expensive hotel rooms, jewelry, even a down payment on a condo in San Francisco. The evidence was damning and comprehensive. Alexander had been building a case against his own brother. Expanded Tatey. "You weren't supposed to see that," Alexander said from the doorway. Madison hadn't heard him come in. "Why?" Madison asked, holding up the folder. "Why go to all this trouble?" Alexander entered the office and closed the door behind him. "Because someone needed to hold him accountable. Because what he did to you was unforgivable. Because he stole from our family company to fund his affair, and that's fraud. Are you going to have him arrested?" "That depends on you." Madison set the folder down on her desk. "What do you mean?" "Derek has been trying to come back into the family business. He's been pressuring our parents to forgive him, to let him return to his position. He's been spreading lies about you, trying to make it seem like the relationship ended mutually." Madison felt a familiar surge of anger. Even after everything, Derek was still trying to control the narrative. "He's been telling people that you were the one who called off the wedding," Alexander continued. "That you got cold feet and ran. He's painting himself as the victim." "Of course he is. I can destroy him with this evidence. I can make sure he never works in this industry again, never gets the chance to hurt anyone else the way he hurt you. But I won't do it without your consent." Madison looked at the man standing before her, this quiet, principled man who had dedicated months of his life to seeking justice for her betrayal. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, naive and trusting, willing to accept whatever crumbs of affection Derek threw her way. Mess. That woman was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who knew her own worth. "What did you have in mind?" she asked. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Alexander would use the evidence to force Derek out of the family business permanently, but not before they had a little fun with him first. I've been thinking about going public with Phoenix Development, Alexander said during one of their late-night planning sessions. Taking the company public would give us the capital we need to expand nationally. Madison understood immediately. And you need a wife who can handle the social aspects of being a CEO's spouse. I need a partner who understands the business, who shares my vision, who can help me navigate the political aspects of high-level development deals. It wasn't a romantic proposal, not yet. It was a business proposition that acknowledged the genuine feelings that had developed between them. When? Madison asked. Soon. Derek's been making noises about wanting to apologize to you, about trying to make things right. I think he's starting to realize that burning bridges with you might have been a mistake. Madison's smile was sharp as a blade. Let him come. The trap was set with meticulous care. Alexander arranged for Derek to be invited to a Phoenix Development launch party, a celebration of their latest project, a sustainable housing development that had garnered national attention. The invitation was extended through Helen Castellano, who was still furious with her older son, but couldn't resist the opportunity to show off Alexander's success. Derek arrived with Sophia on his arm, both of them dressed to impress. Madison watched from across the room as Derek's eyes scanned the crowd, clearly expecting to find her broken and defeated. Instead, he found her radiant. Madison wore a stunning emerald dress that Alexander had helped her choose. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo, and she wore the diamond necklace Alexander had given her as a, quote, business partnership gift. She looked successful, confident, and completely unbothered by Derek's presence. Madison, Derek said, approaching her with the kind of false confidence she remembered so well. You look incredible. Thank you, Madison replied coolly. You look like someone who's been living beyond his means. Derek's smile flickered. I've been meaning to call you. I owe you an explanation. No, you don't. You don't owe me anything, Derek, and I don't need anything from you. Madison, please. What happened between us? What happened between us is ancient history. I've moved on. Have you? Derek's voice took on a familiar pleading tone. Because I haven't. I made a terrible mistake, and I've regretted it every day since. Sophia and we're not. I really don't care about your relationship with Sophia, Madison interrupted. I'm far too busy with my own life to worry about yours. Derek's face flushed red. Your own life? Madison, be realistic. You're working for my little brother, playing at being important. When you're ready to have a real conversation about our future? Our future? Madison laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. Derek, we don't have a future. We never did. I can see that now. You can't be serious. You're gonna throw away everything we built together for what, a job? I'm not throwing anything away. I'm building something new, something better. It was then that Alexander appeared at Madison's side, slipping his arm around her waist with casual intimacy. Derek, Alexander said, his voice polite but cold. I didn't expect to see you here. Derek's eyes narrowed as he took in the possessive gesture, the way Madison leaned into Alexander's embrace. What the hell is this? Derek demanded. This, Alexander said, is my fiancé. Madison and I are getting married next month. The words hit Derek like a physical blow. Around them, the party continued, but the three of them were locked in their own bubble of tension. That's impossible, Derek said, his voice barely controlled. Madison, you can't be serious. You're engaged to my brother? He's just using you to get back at me. Actually, Madison said, her voice steady and clear, I'm using him to get back at you. The fact that we fell in love was an unexpected bonus. Derek's face went white. You're lying. Am I? Alexander, would you like to tell your brother about our engagement? Alexander's smile was razor sharp. I proposed 2 weeks ago. Madison said yes. We're having a small ceremony next month. Just family and close friends. You're not invited. Derek turned to Madison, desperation creeping into his voice. Madison, you don't understand. He's not doing this because he loves you. He's doing it because he's always been jealous of me, always wanted what I had. You're just a pawn in his game. You're right about one thing, Madison said. I am a pawn. But I'm not his pawn. I'm my own, and I'm playing my own game. This is insane. You can't marry him. You don't know him like I do. He's cold, calculating. He's honest, Madison interrupted. He's loyal. He's everything you're not. Derek's composure finally cracked. You think he's going to make you happy? You think he's going to love you the way I did? He already does. The difference is, his love doesn't come with betrayal and lies. Madison, please. Just think about this. We can work things out. Sophia was a mistake. A moment of weakness. You're the one I really love. You're the one I want to spend my life with. Madison felt a moment of satisfaction at seeing Derek beg, but it was quickly replaced by something deeper, pity. This man she'd once loved, once planned to marry, was revealed as exactly what he was. Selfish, manipulative, and fundamentally unable to understand that his actions had consequences. Derek, she said gently, you had your chance. You chose Sophia. Now I'm choosing Alexander. And unlike you, I'm going to honor my choice. Derek's face contorted with rage. You'll regret this, Madison. Both of you will regret this. Actually, Alexander said, pulling out his phone, I think you're the one who's going to have regrets. Would you like to explain to everyone here why you're no longer welcome at Castellano Construction? Or should I? Derek went very still. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the embezzlement. I'm talking about the funds you stole from the company to pay for your affair. I'm talking about the evidence I've been gathering for the past 6 months. You're bluffing. Alexander held up his phone, showing Derek a photo of him and Sophia entering an expensive hotel. Am I? Would you like to see the bank records? The credit card statements? The receipts for all those expensive gifts you bought her with stolen money? Derek's bravado crumbled. Alex, please, we're brothers, we can work this out. We were brothers, Alexander corrected. But you chose to steal from our family. You chose to betray the woman I love. You chose to be the kind of man who destroys everything he touches. I'll pay it back. Every penny. Just don't. It's too late for that, Derek. I've already filed the reports with the police. I've already presented the evidence to the district attorney. I've already removed you from all company accounts and changed all the security codes. Derek looked around wildly, as if searching for an escape route. You can't do this to me. I'm your brother. You should have thought of that before you decided to be a thief and a liar. Madison watched Derek's face cycle through denial, anger, and finally, desperate calculation. She could see him trying to figure out an angle, a way to manipulate the situation to his advantage. Fine, Derek said finally. Destroy me. But don't pretend this is about justice. This is about jealousy. You've always resented me, always wanted what I had. Now you're stealing my fiancé and ruining my life to get your revenge. I'm not stealing anything, Alexander said. Madison chose me. Just like she chose to leave you. Just like everyone who really knows you chooses to leave you eventually. And as for your life, Madison added, you ruined that yourself. Every choice you made, every lie you told, every person you betrayed. That was all you, Derek. We're just making sure you face the consequences. Derek's face was a mask of fury and desperation. This isn't over. I'll find a way to… It is over, Alexander said firmly. It's been over since the moment you decided to betray Madison. Everything that's happened since then has just been the natural consequence of your choices. Madison and Alexander's wedding was everything her first attempt had not been: intimate, meaningful, and filled with people who genuinely cared about them. The ceremony took place at the Chicago Botanic Garden, with only 50 guests in attendance. Helen Castellano walked Madison down the aisle, tears streaming down her face. "You're the daughter I always wanted," she whispered as they reached the altar. "Thank you for giving my son a chance to be the man he was meant to be." Richard Castellano, gruff and emotional, served as Alexander's best man. In his speech, he spoke about the importance of honor, integrity, and choosing the right partner in life. "Some people," he said, glancing meaningfully at the empty chairs where Derek and Sophia would have sat, "think marriage is about taking what you want, but real marriage is about giving what you can." Alexander and Madison understand that. They've built something beautiful together, something that will last. The reception was held at the Art Institute of Chicago, surrounded by masterpieces that somehow paled in comparison to the joy on Madison's face. She wore a simple but elegant dress, her hair adorned with flowers from Alexander's garden. She looked radiant, but more importantly, she looked happy. During their first dance, Alexander pulled Madison close and whispered, "No regrets?" "None," Madison said, meaning it completely. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." "Even though you're married to your ex-fiancé's brother?" Madison laughed. "Especially because I'm married to my ex-fiancé's brother. It's poetic justice. I love you, Madison Castellano." "I love you too, Alexander Castellano." As they danced, Madison caught sight of a familiar figure watching from the street outside. Derek stood under a streetlight, his face pressed against the glass, watching the life he'd thrown away. Madison met his eyes for a moment, and in that look, she communicated everything she needed to say. "I'm happy. I'm loved. I'm exactly where I belong. And you can't touch any of it." Derek turned and walked away, disappearing into the Chicago night. 6 months after the wedding, Madison received a letter from Sophia. It was forwarded through 3 different addresses, suggesting that Sophia had been trying to track her down for some time. The letter was a masterpiece of self-pity and manipulation. "Madison, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to tell you the truth about what happened. Derek pursued me relentlessly. He told me that you and he were having problems, that you were already planning to break up. He said you were using him for financial security, and that you didn't really love him. Bye. I know now that he was lying, but at the time, I believed him. I thought I was helping him escape an unhappy relationship. I thought I was saving him from making a terrible mistake. Lejoberhi, I want you to know that I never meant to hurt you. You are my best friend, and I loved you like a sister. I made a terrible mistake, and I've regretted it every day since. Derek left me 3 months ago. He said he was going to try to win you back, to make things right with his family. When I saw the announcement of your wedding to Alexander, I realized he'd been lying to me too. He never loved me. He was just using me to hurt you. Galileo, I'm alone now, and I deserve to be. I threw away the best friendship I ever had for a man who turned out to be a liar and a cheat. I know you probably can't forgive me, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yasmi, I hope you're happy with Alexander. From what I've heard, he's a good man. You deserve someone who treats you with respect and love. Nesmi probably can't. I'm sorry for everything. Probably can't. I'm sorry for everything. Sophia. Madison read the letter twice, then handed it to Alexander. He read it silently, his expression thoughtful. "What do you think?" Madison asked. "I think she's trying to absolve herself of guilt by claiming she was manipulated," Alexander said. "But I also think she's genuinely sorry. The question is, does it matter?" Madison considered this. A year ago, she would have been devastated by this letter. She would have agonized over Sophia's pain, would have felt guilty for her former friend's loneliness. Now she felt nothing but mild pity. "It doesn't matter," she said finally. She made her choice. She chose to believe Derek's lies because they gave her permission to do what she wanted to do anyway. She chose to betray our friendship for a man she barely knew. Those were her choices, and she has to live with the consequences. Alexander nodded. "What do you want to do with the letter?" Madison walked to the fireplace and tossed the letter into the flames. "I want to forget it ever existed. I want to focus on our life, our future, our happiness. The past is the past." "Are you sure?" "Some people would say you should forgive her." "Forgiveness isn't about them," Madison said, watching the letter burn. "It's about me. And I forgive her, in the sense that I'm not going to let her betrayal poison my life. But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to let her back into my life. Some bridges, once burned, should stay burned." Alexander pulled her into his arms. "I love your wisdom, Mrs. Castellano. I love your support, Mr. Castellano. No regrets about the path we took to get here?" Madison looked around their home, the house they'd designed together, filled with art they'd chosen together, in the city where they were building their life together. Through the window, she could see the garden Alexander had planted for her, the flowers blooming in the spring sunshine. "None," she said. "Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well." 2 years after their wedding, Madison and Alexander received an unexpected visitor. Derek showed up at their office on a Tuesday afternoon, looking haggard and desperate. "I need to talk to you," he said, addressing both of them. "Please." Madison's first instinct was to have security remove him, but Alexander held up a hand. "Let him talk." Derek looked like a man who'd been beaten by life. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair unkempt, his eyes hollow with exhaustion. "I've lost everything," he said without preamble. "The criminal charges, the civil lawsuit, the bankruptcy. I can't find work anywhere in the industry. Nobody will hire me." "That's what happens when you steal from your own family," Madison said coldly. I know I deserve it. I know I brought this on myself. But I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I'm here to ask for help." Alexander leaned back in his chair. "What kind of help?" "I want to make amends. I want to pay back the money I stole, all of it. I want to clear my debts to the family. I want to take responsibility for what I did." "You don't have any money to pay us back," Madison pointed out. "No, but I have something else. Information. About the Morrison deal." Madison and Alexander exchanged glances. The Morrison deal was a major development project they'd been pursuing for months, but they'd been consistently outbid by a competitor. "What about it?" Alexander asked. "I know why you keep losing the bids. I know who's been feeding inside information to your competitor. I know how they're undercutting your prices. In exchange for what? A job. Not in the family business. I know I can never go back there. But somewhere. Anywhere. I need to work, Alex. I need to rebuild my life." Madison studied Derek's face. The arrogance was gone, replaced by genuine humility. The swagger had been beaten out of him by consequences and failure. "Why should we trust you?" she asked. "Because I have nothing left to lose. Because I've learned the hard way that betraying the people you love only destroys yourself. Because I want to do something right for once in my life." Alexander was quiet for a long moment. "The information first. If it's valuable, we'll talk about the job." Derek nodded eagerly. "It's James Morrison himself. He's been taking bribes from Hartwell Construction. They're paying him to give them inside information about your bids, and he's been inflating the project requirements to make their lower bids look more attractive. Can you prove it? I have recordings, text messages, bank records. I worked for Hartwell for 6 months after you fired me. I kept records of everything, thinking I might need leverage someday." Alexander looked at Madison. "What do you think?" Madison considered carefully. Derek had destroyed her life once, had stolen from his family, had lied and cheated and manipulated everyone around him. But he'd also paid a heavy price for his actions. He'd lost his family, his career, his reputation, and his self-respect. "I think," she said slowly, "that everyone deserves a second chance, but only if they've truly learned from their mistakes." "I have," Derek said earnestly. "I've learned that success built on lies and betrayal is no success at all. I've learned that the people you love are more important than money or status or pride. I've learned that integrity isn't just a word, it's the foundation of everything worthwhile in life." Alexander was quiet for another long moment. "If we do this, there are conditions. You work for Phoenix Development, not Castellano Construction. You start at the bottom and work your way up. You prove yourself every single day. And if you ever lie to us, steal from us, or betray us in any way, you're out permanently." "I understand." And you apologize to Madison. A real apology, not the self-serving garbage you tried to feed her at the party. Derek turned to Madison, his eyes filled with genuine remorse. "Madison, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for betraying you, for lying to you, for wasting years of your life. I'm sorry for trying to manipulate you, and for treating you like a possession instead of a person. I'm sorry for being the kind of man who destroys everything he touches." Madison felt the last of her anger drain away. "I forgive you, Derek, not for you, but for me. I forgive you so I can let go of the past completely." "Thank you," Derek said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for giving me a chance to make things right." "Don't thank us yet," Alexander said. "Thank us when you've proven you deserve this chance." 5 years later, Madison stood in the boardroom of Phoenix Development, looking out at the city skyline. Chicago stretched before her, a testament to human ambition and resilience. In the distance, she could see the first Phoenix development community, affordable, sustainable housing that had become a model for urban development nationwide. "Penny for your thoughts?" Alexander asked, joining her at the window. "Just thinking about how far we've come," Madison said, leaning into his embrace. "5 years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought Derek's betrayal was the end of my story. Instead, it was the beginning. The beginning of the real story, anyway. The story where I was the heroine, not the victim." Alexander kissed the top of her head. "You were always the heroine, Madison. You just needed the right story to show it." Through the window, Madison could see Derek in the courtyard below, leading a group of new employees on a tour of the sustainable housing model. He'd kept his word, working his way up from the bottom, proving himself day by day. He'd never regained his place in the family business, but he'd found something better: self-respect and the satisfaction of meaningful work. "Do you think he's really changed?" Madison asked. "I think he's learned that actions have consequences. Whether that's the same as changing, I don't know, but it's enough." Madison's phone buzzed with a text from Helen Castellano. "Dinner Sunday? I'm making your favorite lasagna. And I have news about the grandchildren's situation." Madison laughed, showing Alexander the message. "Your mother is not subtle. She's been wanting grandchildren since our wedding night. I think she's given up on subtlety." "What do you think?" Madison asked, her hand moving unconsciously to her still flat stomach. Alexander's eyes widened. "Are you telling me what I think you're telling me?" "I'm telling you that our story is about to get even more interesting," Madison said with a smile that lit up her entire face. Alexander swept her into his arms, spinning her around the boardroom as she laughed. "When?" 7 months, I found out this morning." "This is incredible. This is perfect." "This is the best revenge of all," Madison finished. "Living well, loving deeply, and building something beautiful together." Alexander set her down gently, his hands moving to frame her face. "I love you, Madison Castellano. I love the woman you were, the woman you are, and the woman you're becoming." "I love you too," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. Thank you for believing in me when I'd given up on everything. Thank you for taking a chance on us. Thank you for choosing love over fear." As they stood there, holding each other in the afternoon sunlight, Madison reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed her had instead led her to the love of her life. The wedding that never was had paved the way for the marriage that was meant to be. Sometimes, Madison thought, the best stories begin with the worst endings. Sometimes the phoenix has to burn before it can rise. And sometimes the perfect revenge is simply refusing to let someone else's choices define your story. Nad Kai Hyrius outside the window, the city hummed with life and possibility. Inside the boardroom, two people who had found each other in the aftermath of betrayal planned their future together, a future built on trust, respect, and the unshakable knowledge that they had chosen each other not out of desperation or loneliness, but out of genuine love and shared dreams. Derek's betrayal had been the catalyst, but it was not the story. Madison's strength, Alexander's loyalty, and their love for each other, that was the story. That was a tale worth telling. And it was only the beginning. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.